Alright everybody, today is Jigsaw Day. If you remember from the last episode, we were working on adding a Wild West village to the game, and we got as far as adding this little town center as a structure that can naturally generate in the world. If you haven't seen episode 1 already, or if you don't already know how to do that, then go watch episode 1 because without that, this episode's not going to make any sense. But if you already know how to add individual structures and you're just here to learn about jigsaws, then stick around. Okay, so the next step in actually turning this little structure into a village is going to be to add roads. And of course, because we want our villages to be unique every time, we're not actually going to build roads into this structure template itself. We're actually going to have it randomly spawn roads around it. And for that, yes, you guessed it, we're going to need jigsaws. I'll go ahead and give myself a jigsaw block, and we'll start with just some jigsaw basics to get us started. I'm going to start by placing a jigsaw right here, and the first step is to remember what block it was that I broke in order to put that jigsaw there. It was coarse dirt. So if I go into the jigsaw, I'm going to go to this last field and replace air with coarse dirt. That is not how you spell dirt. There we go. Now, since there is a jigsaw here, whenever this structure gets spawned in using something like /place or natural generation, every jigsaw block present in this structure will try to spawn something in front of it. And then, whether or not it succeeds, it will always turn into the block that is specified right here. Now, when it actually tries to spawn structures in front of it, it will only do so if it can find another jigsaw block in that structure that can bump up against it like that. Do you see how jigsaw blocks have this little jigsaw piece face? Those jigsaw faces will always touch each other, and that line at the top will always connect like that. So with that in mind, we need to give this jigsaw something to connect to. And just for this express purpose, I have gone ahead and built some roads. Now, there's a whole bunch of different ways to actually do village roads. I have my own way that I developed, and it's a little bit different from vanilla, but I have proven twice already that it works, so I'm going to go ahead and show you what I do for roads. I only ever have 4 road pieces: the straight one, the L joint, the X joint, and the T joint. I'll go ahead and start with the straight case so it's easier to picture in your head. Now on this town center, we can kind of think of the road as just kind of going out in that direction. So the place where I put the structure block in the road is going to have to mirror that. I'm going to put a jigsaw right here. Now this jigsaw is going to have to turn into a dirt path, because that is what I broke to put the jigsaw there. And here is where we come to the next property of jigsaws. You'll notice they have 4 different fields, with the turns into being the last one. And next, I'm actually going to explain the 2 middle ones. When a structure gets spawned into the game using a jigsaw, the structure that it gets connected to will always try to match the target name of the source jigsaw block to the name of the one that's getting spawned. So I'm going to go ahead and change those to be the same. Giving it a namespace doesn't really matter, but I'm going to anyway just to keep with consistency, and I'm just going to call it road, or road. Why can't I type today? Now the vanilla convention is that every single one of these jigsaws actually has the same name as target name, so I'll go ahead and change this one to road as well. And there's also another reason I did that. When the village is actually branching out, the roads are going to continually spawn more roads. So this jigsaw block right here could be a source block just as well as it could be a connector block. So yeah, it's good to have these 2 be the same. Now on the source block inside the town center, I need to make the target name Thunderbirds Road, just as long as it's the same as whatever I put in the other one. Now like I said, the vanilla convention is that these 2 should always be the same. However, I totally could just leave this top one as empty because nothing is ever going to be calling it. This is never a connector block, it's always a source. So, to spell it out more clearly, the target name in the source is what matters, and the name in the connector is what matters. Since this one will never be a connector, name can be left empty, that's totally fine. But vanilla doesn't like to do it, so I'm just gonna follow that example. Now, the last thing we need to cover about jigsaws, and the thing that's gonna make the jigsaws actually work, is this top field right here, the target pool. Do you remember last episode when we went over template pools, those things that are basically loot tables but for structures? This top field of the jigsaw block actually calls upon one of those template pools, and when the template pool rolls a structure, that structure is searched for compatible jigsaws, and if one matches, then the structure is placed right next to it. That is the gist of how jigsaw blocks work. And yeah, that might have been a little bit confusing, so I'm gonna go ahead and show you. I can't put anything in there yet because we haven't actually created the template pool, so I'll go ahead and do that now. I'm going to create a template pool that for now just contains this road. I'll add the other ones to it later. I'm going to save this, and I'm gonna put it into the same data pack that we were working with in the last episode. Namespace under structures, Village Wild West. I need to add a folder called roads, and that name choice is arbitrary, by the way, I just made it up. And finally, I'm going to get the file I just saved, which is the straight road, and put it into the data pack. And then, just like in the last episode, I'm going to create a new template pool under Village Wild West. I'll call this one roads.json. Now, in general, this template pool follows pretty much the same pattern as the one we worked with previously. It's got its own name up here at the top. It's got the name of the structure file, so in this case I said roads/straight. And the only big difference is that I'm going to change rigid to terrain matching. Now what this does is that it actually allows the road to go up and down with the terrain rather than fixing it at one elevation. This is what allows villages to climb up cliffs, and it prevents them from just cutting holes out of the world or floating in midair and stuff like that. So here what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy the name of this template pool, and I'm going to paste it into the Jigsaw block that's going to be spawning it. So instead of Minecraft Empty up there at the top, it will be what I copied, which is Village Wild West/roads. And I'll copy it into the road Jigsaw as well, because like I said, the roads can spawn more roads, so it'll be helpful to have there as well. And now, because I've made edits to both this and the town center, I'm gonna have to save both of them all over again. And one trick I like to do is I like to just copy the entire Village Wild West category from the generated folder, go into my structures folder in the data pack, and then just click paste. This will overwrite all files you've already got. Yeah, you click do this for all current items, and then yes, replace the files. Okay, there's a lot of steps to this. But basically, if you have a whole bunch of files that you are copying and updating, then that is a much better way to do it rather than just copying and pasting every single file from your generated folder into your data pack. So that's it. We've saved the structure blocks in the data pack. And again, in order for this to take effect, I'm going to have to restart the server. And once I do that, we'll be able to test out and see if this can spawn a road. And we are back. I have restarted the server, so I'm going to go see if I can place this down and see if it'll spawn a road. Village Wild West. Okay. And when I place this down, there is a road coming out of it. Look at that. So if you remember, the first structure block said it was going to turn into coarse dirt, which is this block right here. The one on the road said it was going to turn into a dirt path, which is this block right here. And they are bumped up against each other, like I said. Now, I didn't put a jigsaw at the other end of the road, which means this road is just gonna stop right here. If you want the village to start branching out, you're gonna have to add more road types and more jigsaw blocks. Typically, town centers and villages can have roads going off in all four directions. So I'm gonna go ahead and control right-click this jigsaw so I can save all its data. Break this coarse dirt and place it down, and yeah, it's gonna replace coarse dirt, so I don't have to change anything. More coarse dirt, and more coarse dirt. Okay, that was easy. Now, if I save this again, the town center should be able to spawn roads, again, in all four directions. So this is the part where I start adding more roads. I'll grab this jigsaw, and I'm actually going to put it at the other end of this road, so that when this road spawns in, well, then it has an unconnected jigsaw, and this jigsaw will try to connect to something else, and you can see how this starts forming chain reactions. I believe I replaced light gray terracotta, so I'll go ahead and specify that. There we go. And then I'll start filling in the edges of the other road pieces. Okay, there's one. There's one. Okay, so that's the L joint done. The X joint has 4 possible connectors, and there we go. And then finally the T joint, which has 3 possible connectors. And now I feel like would be a good time to explain my method of doing village roads and how it works and why I do it. Let's say that in the template pool, this road gets called, the straight road, and it gets connected to this jigsaw. Well then, that means this jigsaw will continue spawning roads. However, it's not guaranteed that that jigsaw will be the one that's connected. Because this jigsaw has the same name, it could also connect to this one, which means that this will be the one that spawns the next road. That kind of thing is decided randomly by the game when the village is being placed. Now you may be asking, why do I have an L joint that bends this way but not the other way? Well, because if you look at it from this perspective, it bends the other way. And remember, this jigsaw right here has just as much of a chance as being chosen to be connected as this one, right? So there's 2 options. It could choose this one and then bend to the right, or it could choose this one and then bend to the left. It's effectively 2 different types of road pieces covered by the same piece. Similarly with the X joint, it could choose any one of the 4 corners and then the other 3 will continue branching. And for the T joint, we kind of have an interesting case where it could pick either of the endpoints, and then if it picks this endpoint, it goes forward and left, or it could pick this endpoint and go forward and right, but it could also pick this endpoint and then only go left and right but not forward. So that is effectively 3 different types of roads, again, all covered by the same piece. Now you may be thinking, okay, well, since each road will spawn at least one more road, This kind of sounds like it could blow up to infinity and, multiply exponentially. However, there are actually two separate mechanisms in this game that can prevent that from happening. First is that the village actually has a maximum size, so the game will not let the village continue expanding once it reaches a certain distance from the town center. And the second is one that we actually have control over, and it's going to be controlled from the template pool. So I'm going to save all 4 of these again, and then I'm going to put them all into the same template pool. Okay, so I'm here in my data pack under Structures and Village Wild West. I can see that I now have all 4 roads, and I've updated the town center to have all 4 of its jigsaw blocks. The next thing I need to do is go to the template pool for roads and add some more elements. Now, up until now, we've only ever worked with these that point to one singular NBT file, but again, they're like loot tables, and they can randomly pull from a whole bunch of them. So I'm going to add a new element right here, and inside it, I'm basically just going to copy and paste all of this stuff, except instead of being the straight road, I'm going to make this one the joint L. Copy this again and paste it. I'll make the next one the joint T, and the last one will be the joint X. And I'm going to add one more element, in fact right at the beginning. For this one, instead of putting a structure in here, I'm going to change it from single pool element to empty pool element. Basically what happens if this element gets rolled is that no structure gets spawned at all, and that is what causes the roads to end. Now, just like loot tables, I can actually adjust their weights. So what I have been doing for my villages is making a weight of 3 on the empty element, 3 on the straight, 2 on each of these, and then 1 for the X, because the X has a lot of connectors, and I feel like it should be a little bit rarer. So that is our template pool. Whenever it gets called by a jigsaw, it will randomly select one of these to connect to it, with a decent chance that it just won't connect to anything at all. Again, in order for this to take effect, I've got to restart the server, so I will be right back. Okay, I'm back on the server once again, and I'm gonna go a little bit further away for this one, because the way I have it set it up right now, assuming I did it right, this one can branch pretty far. Let's /place structure Village Wild West. And there we go. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Perfect. Let's look at what a couple of these did actually. It looks like this jigsaw right here called the L joint that turned to the right, and then that one called a straight one, and then the straight one called the empty element, so it just stopped. This one caused a T joint, which the straightforward direction just stopped, and the direction to the right caused another T joint, and then it just kind of started branching out. Oh, it actually looks like 2 of the roads completely coincided with each other. You can draw a line from this jigsaw all the way around and keep going on the same road and end up back at this jigsaw. So it looks like the roads kind of overlapped each other a little bit. That's the kind of stuff that can happen. And as you can see, it looks pretty cool, but it's also completely barren. So the next step is going to be to add some buildings. Now, from here, there's really not much else to do that we haven't already covered. There is a lot more work, of course, but it's really just a lot of the same stuff. The general idea from here on out is that you want to put jigsaws on the sides of the roads to spawn things like buildings and decorations and lamps and stuff like that. I'll show you the first one just as a little bit of an example. Let's say I put a jigsaw right here in the middle of the road pointing out this way. I'm going to change the name and target name to building entrance. This target pool, I'm going to say buildings, which is a template pool that I'm going to create here in a minute. And then what I'm going to do is actually go up to one of the buildings that can spawn, like I'll pick this one, and I kind of want to move it 1 block off the ground. I prefer to have it 1 block off the ground so you can see all the jigsaws and all its little details. Okay, I've managed to get a bounding box around the building. I'm going to save it and then go to load mode and set that to 1 block up. So there we go, I just moved it 1 block up. Replace these little ground bits with structure voids. Okay, it looks like all the structure voids are in place. And now back to the jigsaws. For this jigsaw on the side of the road, I had it as building entrance, so I'll go ahead and copy that one and place it down over here. This time it's instead going to turn into spruce planks. There we go. For the target pool, I'm actually going to set this to Minecraft empty. Now the reason I made that one empty is because it will only ever be a connector. It will never generate new structures. This jigsaw will only appear in response to being called by a road, and this building will never want to spawn more structures in front of it. Setting the target pool to empty is the best way to achieve that. So from here, the next thing to do is to again go into the data pack, make a template pool, which is specified by that jigsaw and lists this structure. And once that is done, this little house should be able to spawn naturally whenever you place down a village. So what I'm going to do now is repeat this process for all the rest of these buildings, because it's pretty much exactly the same thing. There is no new information here. And I will see you all back when I am done with that. It's gonna take me a while. Okay, I'm back. It has been about a day, and as you can see, I have actually succeeded in adding all of the rest of this stuff into the data pack. As I said before, there's not really any new information as far as to what I was actually doing, but there are a couple of things I want to just talk about and briefly mention because they're kind of handy tips and tricks and they're interesting. Here is what the roads look like now. They are covered in jigsaw blocks, and I will cover later why I actually added a fifth one. Like I mentioned before, the jigsaw blocks here on the sides of the roads are what spawn in the buildings. So for example, this jigsaw right here actually pulls from a target pool called buildings, which contains all the structures like the saloon and this blacksmith shop and the store and the houses and all those kinds of things. Now the roads also have a different jigsaw that pulls from a pool called extras, and this is a category that I just kind of made up, and it basically means anything that isn't like a residence or profession building. It's just kind of a decoration category. It spawns things in like these little potted cacti and these two wagons, as well as this little dinky well and this right here, which is a horse stable. Now something you may have noticed about the other roads as well as the horse stable is that they have vertical facing jigsaws. Vertical jigsaws work just exactly like the regular horizontal ones, except instead of looking for another horizontal one to connect to, they'll look for one that can touch them face to face going up and down. Since these jigsaws are all facing upward, that means they will look for a jigsaw that's facing downward. Now these jigsaw blocks right here actually pull from a target pool called horse, which just does exactly what it says. It randomly spawns a horse. And yes, that is another interesting thing about jigsaws and structure blocks, is that they can be used to spawn entities as well as structures. All you have to do is just save the entity using a structure block. In that same fashion, these residential houses actually have vertical structure blocks that spawn villagers. Now if you'll notice, every position in this jigsaw actually has the Minecraft namespace, and that is because I am pulling from a template pool that is in the vanilla version of Minecraft. I didn't even add this one myself. This one randomly spawns a plains villager, and it connects to a vanilla jigsaw block that has the name bottom. And this one spawns a desert villager, which, yeah, by the way, we made the executive decision to actually include more than one villager type in this village because we thought it would look cool. Now another thing we added is these little lamps. Now they're kind of like the extras, except they are placed on top of things and they have downward facing jigsaws, rather than the extras which connect to the roads to the side just like buildings do. These lamps have jigsaws that are named decor, and they are pulled by these jigsaws on the roads, which are also named decor and pull from a template pool called decor. Now that template pool, as you guessed, just contains those lamps. Okay, now why did I add this fifth tiny road? This is something I did in the cherry villages as well, and it's a system I call rare structures. When we left off last time, this town center was able to spawn roads in all four directions. What I have done since then is actually replaced one of those four directions. It used to just be a road, and now it is a rare road. The road itself isn't rare, it's just called rare because it spawns the rare structures. This jigsaw will always spawn the same structure because that template pool only contains one road, that road being this tiny little road, and unlike all the other ones, this road actually has two different jigsaws at its ends. This one connects to the town center with Rare Roads Start, and this one actually pulls from a template pool called Rare Structures. By making this spawn directly from the town center and nowhere else, I have basically ensured that there can only be one of these in a village. Also, by the way, it has a chance to not even spawn at all, but we're just talking about the case where it does. Now, because there's only up to one rare road in a village, and each rare road spawns up to one rare structure, that means despite the fact that there are multiple different types of rare structures, only one of them can spawn in any given village at a time. Now, those rare structures are this church, the town hall, this mining tower, which I think looks really cool, and probably the crown jewel of this project, the Alamo. And by the way, for those who are wondering, this giant archway from the Cherry Village also follows that rare structure format, which of course is why it doesn't show up very often, but when it does, it's super rewarding because just look at this thing. The last big change I made that you might care about is that there are now multiple possible town centers. So before, when we were testing, the center was always this tree. Well, now it has a chance to be either this tree, or this fort, or this wagon camp. Oh, and there's one other thing. The town centers can all spawn villagers, cats, and also iron golems. I added that because that is what the vanilla town centers do, so I thought I'd be a little bit consistent. Okay, so if I kept explaining all the little intricacies of this village, it would get real technical, probably boring, and like I said earlier, it wouldn't really contain much new information that I haven't already explained. So, while I am here recording, there is one last change that I want to make to this data pack, and it's one that I kind of hinted at in episode 1. I'll go back into the data pack back and I'm gonna go to the actual structure file that gives us the Wild West Village, and I'm gonna focus on this entry right up here at the top, the biomes. Now I want to actually make this spawn in more than just the wooded badlands. I want it to spawn in the regular badlands as well. Now this JSON structure does actually have support for me just directly putting in a list of biomes right here, but vanilla does something a little bit different, and I like to stick to the vanilla convention because honestly it's cool. You can also put a biome tag here, and it can be a tag that I create. I'm gonna say hashtag tbirds has structure / village Wild West. This is the vanilla convention. It's just has structure / name of structure. Now since I've done that, obviously I have to actually go create that tag. Back under my namespace next to structures in Worldgen, I'm going to add a new folder called tags. Under tags, I'm going to add another folder called Worldgen. Yes, this is not the same Worldgen, it's a new Worldgen. Under this one, I'm going to add biome, and then under here I can actually add the name of the tag that I created. It was under has structure, so I will make that a folder, and it was has structure / village Wild West, so my last thing to do is to create a JSON file called village wildwest.json. Now this tag follows pretty much the same format as every other tag in Minecraft. You can just add values to it, and there we go. If I leave this file as it is right here, this will allow the structure to spawn in both the Badlands and the Wooded Badlands. However, there's something that the people on Planet Minecraft really love when I do, and that is you can actually use these tags to add compatibility with non-vanilla biomes. By far the most popular one out there is Terralith, and lots of people love to add structure data packs on top of Terralith, so making this spawn in a few Terralith biomes might be a smart idea. Now the Terralith biome that I can think of right off the top of my head that would go great with this village is the hot shrubland, so I'm just going to use that one as an example. And there we go. If you do this with Terralith, then your structure will spawn in the hot shrubland. However, there's a problem. What I have just done is made this data pack completely dependent on Terralith. If I reload this and Terralith is not present, this tag will just fail to load entirely and everything will break. What I want to do is make it recognize Terralith when Terralith is installed, but also just not care if it isn't. What you have to do is, rather than making this entry just a string, you have to actually make it an object. And this is what that object looks like. You still have the name of the biome that you want to be compatible with, but this required false is very important. This basically says that if Terralith Hot Shrubland is included and found, great, you can add it to this tag. But if it's not, well, required false says you just ignore it. So what this tag file has basically done is made it so that if Terralith is not installed, the tag is just these two biomes. If Terralith is installed, the tag is all three of these. Okay, and honestly, that's the data pack finished. The Wild West Village is now completely functional, and you can add it to your world as you wish. Now, as I said, all of the core concepts behind making a village data pack have been covered in both this episode and the one before it. However, if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty and see every little detail about how I actually made this village, the data pack is available to download down below. I'll be posting it on Planet Minecraft, so feel free to download it and look through it and see all the structure files and all that kind of stuff. Or if you want, just download it and use it in your world. It'll just add these villages. So to end off this episode, I think what I'm going to do is open up a brand new single player world, add this data pack, and let's go find some villages. And we'll do it in Terralith too, because why not? Okay, here we are in Terralith, and this is a really cool looking biome. I love this. Although I'm sorry if this starts to lag out. Terralith is kind of heavy. Let's make sure the data pack actually loaded correctly. Let's do data pack list. And there we go. We see Terralith is in here and the Wild West Village is in here. So now, let's locate structure Village Wild West, see if that finds anything. There we go, 2255 blocks away. Let's go ahead and click to teleport. And here it is. It's in the Wooded Badlands. It seems like it spawned right on the edge of a jungle. It actually did choose the Tree Town Center, and it spawned the mining tower as a rare structure. And here's the village. I honestly think this looks great. I love how these turned out. Let's see what they look like at night. Oh, that's great. It's got these little lanterns lighting it all up, and I don't know, it looks cozy, don't you think? Okay, but but I'm actually determined to find one that spawned in the Terralith biome, so I'm gonna see if I can find that. Oh, there's a volcano in the distance. God, I love Terralith. Okay, so after a bunch of teleporting and searching around, I have actually found one. This is a village that naturally spawned in Terralith's hot shrubland. And it looks like it's kind of overlapping this savanna village. It overwrote one of the structures. That's hilarious. Cursed torch. But yeah, here it is, and honestly, it kind of blends into the terrain. This fits like surprisingly well. It chose the wagon camp as its town center. It looks like it didn't spawn a rare structure, but it is pretty big. It extends kind of far out this way, I guess. That's sort of far, right? Anyway, yeah, I say this was a success. And at the very least, I hope you enjoy this data pack. Let me know in the comments if any of this has inspired you to build your own village. And I will see you all later, my dudes. Thank you so much for watching.